You're listening to Spark TV, where we bring you daily interviews with real women in business at all stages. I'm your host, Danielle Lewis, and I am so grateful to have you here. Amazing. Tatjana, welcome to the Spark TV podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute joy to be here this morning.
So good. Yes, I've got my cup of tea. It's a little early on the West Coast, but always talking to you invigorates me, and I'm already feeling excited from our 5 minute chat before we hit record. So this is so good. Let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
Amazing. My name is Tatjana Genys. I'm the proud owner and founder of a company called The Art and Science of Choosing You. And it's a business I created after being in a leadership role for 13 years in a multinational epic organization that was everything but not aligned to where I think my true skill set lies. So after a deep journey of cleansing, releasing everything that was stuck, I decided to go on the brave journey and try them on my own. So the business I now run is focused on conscious healing, conscious living, conscious leading, and conscious parenting. And it's all four sectors that I believe you need or that represent healing at the core and making your life, your heart, your mission really wholesome.
Oh, I love that so much. So it sounds like it was quite the journey to get from, corporate superwoman to business owner. What was that process like for you? You said you went on a bit of a healing journey. What did you do? What did you try? What did you experiment with? What worked? What didn't work? Tell me everything.
Oh, I love that question. So healing now is my middle name. And that's why I love incorporating it in every conversation, in anything I teach, in anything I write, in anything I position, be that a corporate workshop or be that a sound journey I will hold at home or somehow mapped into the characters of my books. But I think if I was really honest with myself and reflecting all the way back, I think my journey probably started still in childhood. And I think the path I went on to become that superwoman, as you lovingly named it, in the corporate world was actually driven by a lot of pain. And I think a big part of that was for the longest time, I tried to prove myself and I tried to fit into a box that lovingly I just don't belong to because my brain works different, my thoughts are different, which now I believe has become my superpower. But getting to that stage, it meant healing all the wounds of when I was made small or disrespected, or when a story of mine got created and how I perceived the world. And then it also meant proving myself in so many different ways in the corporate world, that leaving that behind after you reach a senior director role and board of director role, it felt insane. But I was also looking at my private life and obviously went through a divorce, and I was trying to raise a conscious boy and moving through the transitions of him growing older and developing into a very different individual than I ever thought or hoped. I'd wished for a kid that was more aligned to me initially. And now I love him for exactly those changes because he helped me grow and develop into the person I had to become. So my healing journey took me anywhere from the mountains of Bhutan to sit in a monastery to the Amazonian jungle when I sat with some
Wow.
native tribes to 9 years of somatic development work and coaches galore, and to really dig deep and uncover or actually maybe even remember who I truly was. And that's why I believe so wholeheartedly that all of what you are is perfect, and that it's really more about reconnection with you at the core, at your being, and understanding what your magic is, your definition of it, and maybe uncovering all the masks and all the traits you learned along the way and fully stepping into that version. And that was the foundation, what I created the business with. So let me just pause here and yeah, see where you want to take it from here.
Oh my God, no, it's just so good. And I have like a billion questions. But I think the thing that's standing out to me as well is that this isn't just like, go to one yoga class and it fixes your whole life. This is really a lifelong journey, I think, that we all need to go through on
Absolutely.
some levels.
Absolutely. I wish it was as simple as going on a yoga retreat and for a certain while that fixed a core within myself. So I also don't want to discriminate it or disempower it because I feel like with every stage that you are in and with every age bucket. So I'm now in my 40s, best time ever because I actually feel like this is me really stepping into the woman I'm meant to be, but every part of my life was a phase. And if I had all the tools straight away, I probably wouldn't know how to handle them. And so it
Mm,
was definitely a development. It was a lot of trial and error. You asked what worked, what didn't. Went to some sessions where I couldn't wait to get out of it and thought, never again. And somewhere I really surprised myself. And the ones where I really got to meet myself at the deepest level, where I understood that I'm not too deep or I'm not overreacting, but that's actually my gift of part of what I get to share in my poetry and in my books and in the characters that come to life. That started to become a changer because I finally started being on my own team. And once that changed how I approach every morning and my daily habits of how I work with my inner child and how I love teaching others to work with their inner child because I feel like it's such a beautiful journey of learning to fall back in love with yourself. That when you are, once you are on that journey, you value yourself so differently. You show up in the world so differently. You celebrate other people. Like we had that conversation a moment ago with the epic and journaling prompts you gave me not too long ago. You just want to be on other people's teams because
mm.
you don't want to go it solo anymore. And that was maybe my reflection from leadership in the corporate world to being a business owner. That path felt really lonely. Whilst now I see how many epic people are out there trying to make some epic changes in the world. And I just feel honored and blessed every day that I get to be part of it.
Oh my God. Well, the honor is all ours because you are absolutely incredible. And yeah, and I just love the way you talk about rather than, I guess, inventing a person, it's all about reconnection. It's all about the fact that we are already perfect, already, but we need to be, and I love that you used the phrase be on your own team. It's so true. It's so easy to actually be the person who's not on your own team. It's so easy to be so self-critical and wishing and hoping for all of these things that sometimes we forget that, we are perfect and we do need to, give ourselves a little bit more love every day.
Absolutely. I love that you just said that because sometimes we're the unkindest people to ourselves when we are pushing so hard. And I don't know why the brain is wired in a way that it remembers the bad stuff, not the good stuff. So whether
Yeah.
that's habits around the house, everywhere, little pointers that just remind you of your light. But then I guess the mission I'm now on is there's so many changes in the world, and that's your inner world, your outer world, and then what's happening externally. And you're impacted by so many things that keep you distracted from how you feel, who you're on the inside, and actually disconnect you in so many ways. And if I
Mm.
think about all the things that throughout that journey, but especially when I failed, and there have been plenty of moments where I really had to sit down and pick myself back up and question if I have it in me to keep going and drive a business forward because it's not like you'll know better than anybody. It's not all sunshine and roses. And it was deep connections that were meaningful to me. So I guess that became part of the next chapter to see how we can connect to each other and every single individual we meet along the way, and in a way remind each other of our beauty and maybe shine together a little brighter. So thank you, and right back at you.
Oh, I love it so much. So talk to me about your books. So you've
Yeah.
mentioned your books and these characters. I'd love you to, yeah, go deeper on that and tell us what that's all about.
Ah, beautiful. So I can talk about my books for a living, but I'll try and keep it concise. How do I give them the best intro? I guess the first book I ever wrote was called I See You, and it was a 7 year journey where I went on lots of different development work to uncover some really deep emotional states. So it's talking to anything from self-worth and self-realization and a lot of painful memories, but my heart and soul is in that book. And what I didn't realize when I wrote a fictional fantasy story, where initially I just had the beginning and the end, was actually the journey it would take me on. And what that led to was actually for the first time, maybe me seeing myself. So when I finished the 19th version of the re-edit and I hit send to my editor and publisher, I started to cry because it was such a big personal journey. And as I was still recovering from that, my second book dropped in, and there was a journey I really didn't want to go on. So that was called From People Pleaser to Boundary Badass. And as the title suggests, it was a slap in my face for a couple of months to a year, and that took me on a very different journey of accepting who I am, but accepting who I am, good, bad, and ugly, and that I can be nice, and now I can also be a badass that I will call out whenever necessary. And that was a journey that I believe I had to go on to also make the right decisions for me for the next chapter. And somewhere in between, my poetry collection was born, and that was the journey from being totally lost to finding my purpose. So that's called Find Your Center. And then I wrote a kids poem, which is all about the adventures of finding your purpose, and an empowerment journal done in 2024. And now I've got two more books coming, one that I'm really, really passionate about, and one that I absolutely love and adore, and I can't wait to finish it because that's a book I wrote with my boy when he was 9, and that's a journey that
Wow.
will take us on a new chapter and journey. But it's not time yet for that book to be born. So each in its time, but it's been the most heart fulfilling process, as hard as it was at times. And I highly hope and recommend to anybody, if you've got a book inside you, go on that journey because it changes you in many more ways than I could ever describe.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've always heard authors talk about writing a book as difficult. That's the number one word that they use. But I love how you talk about how transformational it actually was for you as a person. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
so interesting that actually putting words on a paper can actually be part of the healing process.
100%. So difficult would have probably been one of the last words I would have used. That's so interesting. And I love that you're reflecting that back at me because there are parts who are definitely hard. And there are parts where you find writer's block or you don't know where you're going to take it from there. But it also really offers you the lens of hindsight. And I think,
Mm.
especially when I was writing my second book and I was reading through those versions, or even with my first book, I think by the time I kept re editing it for the first, gosh, probably 89 times out of 90, I bawled my eyes out because I could literally see word by word where I fell in love with an individual, where it all broke apart. And by the end of it, that's why I'm so passionate about inner child healing now. I really wanted to hug that girl and hug that version. And I thought, if that's how that made me feel, hopefully the reader will get an essence for that because that literally has my heart and soul in it. And then with the second book, it almost served me as a reminder because sometimes, the mind can get carried away with was I imagining that? And did that really
Mm.
happen? And was that just my perception of events? And as I could read it, because I literally initially just used it as a journal. And then the re-editing process became where you cut out the noise and you get really centered on the message and the connection and what you want to achieve with whatever you're creating. And so it was validating and healing and empowering and heart-wrenching and all the all the beautiful stuff that you get as a result of it. So it's definitely a process, it's a journey, and hopefully a lifelong learning as a result of it.
Wow, that's so incredible. So, talk to me about the business today. So, obviously this has been, yeah, quite the quite the ride to get here. And obviously, going as we touched on, business can be hard some days, but it's so incredible that we can actually wake up every morning and do something that we're passionate about and connect with other people who are also passionate. So, talk to me about your business as it is today. Who are your customers and what kind of processes do you take them through?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Love that question. You ask so epic questions. It was interesting. I had to learn and grow a lot when it came to it. And I thought when I launched a product within a corporate organization back in 2014, that that would prepare me for running my own business. Huh. It did not.
We
Turns out
learn.
I still had a lot, a lot to learn here. But also, I was maybe a little bit naive because I thought I'm going to go out in this world and I'm just going to write and it's going to be epic and people are going to love it. And turns out, if nobody can find your book, it's hard for you to leave that impression. So that was step one. And then it almost became like building blocks because as I was leaning very heavily on the art side, I also started missing the science element. And then I looked at it from both sides and I thought, how can I connect those two elements? So I've got 15 years or 13 years of leadership experience, but 13 years in an IT research organization. So I'm very structured, but I now also have all that knowledge when it comes to consciousness and sitting in a monastery. And that's the art side. So how can I connect that? And that's now led to, I guess, the combination, the art and science of choosing you. And that's a combination of speaking, of writing, of running corporate events that are anything from conscious hiring to conscious firing. I do a lot of inner child work with people who went through abuse or different topics that we don't tend to talk about, grief and all sorts of emotions. And now it stretches all the way to me exploring little TikTok videos to see how I can connect to the younger generation. And I think it's become such a big drive for me to, I guess, position hope in a world that can be really scary and in a world that's surrounded by violence when you switch on your television. So I guess my mission now is to connect people to themselves and to light, for lack of better words. And I do that through different tools. So I've created an academy that I call the Badass Academy, and that's all about empowerment. And that's a super cheap, easy access for anybody who can't afford the beautiful training sessions I was able to afford when I was still in the corporate world, all the way to a course on conscious leadership. And I guess part of my talk is now what the monks of Bhutan taught me about leadership, but it's summarizing 13 years of my leadership career, all the way to what I had to learn the hard way is when you burn out and burnout prevention, to a
Mm.
conscious reset and having bite-sized templates, techniques, tools in your back pocket on how you make your life a little brighter, all the way down to holding space and in lots of different capacities, playing my instruments and connecting to people at core, which I absolutely, absolutely love and adore.
Wow. So much, so much. I just feel like somebody could come to you and talk about what they're going through, and you would just have the right tool or the right solution to guide them through that process. But the burning question I have for you is, can you give us a sneak peek of what you did learn from the monks of Bhutan?
Absolutely. And I want to respond to both of the points that you just made because I actually really love it. You know, I think the beautiful, maybe gift, if I may blow my own trumpet for a minute, the beautiful
Please.
gift that my journey has taken me on, and that's anywhere from being born in Russia, being raised in Germany, living in the UK, and then through my career now being based in Australia and traveling a lot of the world was a worldview I didn't have, but it
Mm,
came with some really hard lessons of what it means not to belong or not to fit in or constantly having to prove yourself. So I think the gift I can offer to anybody who comes in, whether that's for a sound journey or we're having a conversation, is I will meet you there. I am
mm,
not afraid of your emotions and I welcome them. I absolutely embrace them. And what I want to give to you as a result of our exchange is for you to feel really seen and heard and understood, because I genuinely believe that's actually all we ever need. And what I learned from the monks, and that's both the head monk who had left such an impeccable impression on me, as well as the driver who was taking us from one destination to another, is what embodiment of leadership looks like. Now, in the headmaster's scenario, he was so in tune with what was happening in the Western world, whilst leading a school really of little monks that were chanting Zonka at 6 a.m. in the morning and were doing water rituals. And he made them feel safe in a world that was really protected for such a long time. So it's such a hidden gem and probably won't be for much longer. But in a world that doesn't have billboards and didn't have phones, and that's still a kingdom and so many different epic things. But what I then got to see in the driver was actually the full embodiment of it. So he was the person who invited us to his family home to celebrate his child's birthday, and who took us to his brother's, his neighbor's restaurant and taught us how to cook a Bhutanese dish. And in the simplest of forms, he showed up in a way that I don't think other people could, because even as we were walking through different monasteries, there was the guide who was teaching us all these things, and I would turn to the side and he would reflect that at me, because he would literally walk around all these beautiful sites humming different prayer songs. Or I had my singing bowl with me that I ended up leaving with him as a result of it, and he would just start playing it in the background. So he was so in tune with, I think, a lot of the teachings that I got to learn there, that it touched me in a very different way. And when I then looked at how does that translate into where I am, it then became the polar opposite. So how can I bring more of that side into corporations and connect some really toxic environments and make them a little bit brighter and a little bit more wholesome, and maybe give people a chance that I didn't have at that time.
I love that. And I just love that you always talk about bringing that light and bringing that brightness. I just think that it doesn't matter who you are, what job you're in, whether you're a business owner, whether, you haven't started on that journey yet. But I think we all need a little bit more lightness in our life. You're so right. You do turn on the TV at night and it's all bad. It's all bad. So sometimes it's nice to preserve a little bit of joy and light and bring that to ourselves. If we're not, getting enough of it, we need to consciously bring that into our life.
Totally. And I think you actually just summarized what it means to choose you. And
Mm,
sometimes that will be tuning out voices that just don't serve you. So it's taking away that bad and putting a silly hat on that negative
yes.
emotion and literally making fun of it. It sometimes means cutting cords with people that you've outgrown, or shoes that don't fit any longer. It sometimes means some really hard goodbyes. But in the best cases, it means self protection, it means empowerment, it means purpose, it means boundaries, it means so many things. And it means living a life by design, which I think you owe to yourself, to every single version you've outgrown and connected with and are still stepping into.
Yeah, and I love that phrase, that living your life by design. I was always fascinated when I found out that that was possible. I remember the moment, I just kind of went through life ticking boxes. You go to school, you go to uni, you get a job, you save for a house. And I remember I read a book that talked about lifestyle design and business ownership. And I was just like, oh my God, you mean like we're in charge? We can just choose the life we want to live. And I feel like, as much as there is a lot of negativity in the world today, we have never lived in a better time to be able to take complete ownership of our lives and design it the way that we would like, even if that means just like tiny, tiny things each day while we're going through the process.
Absolutely. It's picking your own adventure. And it
Yeah.
can actually become an adventure. And I love what you said also about the light, because yesterday just walking across the high street. So I normally write, hey, so I can write anywhere and I can just type away sometimes and be in my own little bubble. But I made a conscious effort to put my phone to the side. And then I looked up and I saw like a Christmas decoration here and a really positive quote here and somebody reminding people to like walk their bikes for mental health. And I thought there's so many nuggets of beauty in this world. And if
Mm.
you can fine tune your brain to those, and like cut off all the distractions that are in the way, then I think you've got the perfect recipe.
Oh my God, I love it so much. I could literally talk to you all day.
Same, 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 same.
Oh my God, so good. However, I always love to wrap
Mm.
up these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So, reflecting on your time in business, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her business journey?
Ah, beautiful question. So I'm going to answer it in multiple ways. If you're just starting out as a businesswoman, be that in corporate or as an entrepreneur, I hope you can tune down the voices in your head that told you you can't do it, because I think we're in our 20s, we are still very insecure, and I
Mm.
hope that you find yourself a coach who sees your potential, whoever that will be, and drives you forward. And I hope as you progress on your journey that you find community around you that really serves you. So people who celebrate you, who cheer you on when you have a success, but who are also there to pick you up when you don't. And then as you progress and I guess reach the stage where I'm at right this moment, I hope you make it your mission to impact other people's lives so that you become the hand that stretches out to others and offers their support, and that leadership starts at home around the kitchen table, surrounded by your kids, your neighbors' kids, your uncles, your nephews, whoever that might be, your dog in your life. And it's just making somebody else's life better in whatever capacity you can. So be that a smile if you don't have anything else to offer right this moment, or share your presence in whatever way. And then never stop choosing you. It's not where you start that defines your adventure.
Oh my God. I just want to put never stop choosing you. I just want to write that down and take that into my day as a reminder. So you are absolutely incredible, Tatjana. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us so openly and honestly, and all of those nuggets of wisdom that we can take into our business, into our day, into our life. You are absolutely incredible. Thank you.
And so are you. Thank you for enabling this space for real conversations. I value that a lot. Thank you.
That wraps another episode of Spark TV. Shout out to Spark TV sponsor IP Australia for their amazing support of the Spark podcast and women in business. And if no one tells you today, you've got this.